As a data engineer, you'll spend most of your time in coding PySpark applications. It can be Scala also, but considering the rise of Python because of machine learning and AI, PySpark has overtaken Scala as the most famous or most used development language in Spark. In the previous videos, I have shown you how you can use the no-code environment of Glue. And you might have seen or you might have realized that if you have to do complex coding in Glue to implement very complex business logic or the projects that I have given you in the data engineering volume 2 course, it might be difficult to use Visual ETL to implement the use cases or business statements in Glue. So you are left with coding with PySpark. And in the introduction, I had told you that Glue supports PySpark and Scala both because these are again the most famous programming languages for Spark, PySpark being the highest, second is Scala. Now a question comes, how do we run PySpark in Glue? While using Visual ETL, you have seen that the Glue script is very different than a Spark code. It is very different than Scala. It is very different than PySpark. So as a data engineer, let's say you're coming from an open source technology, you have done coding using PySpark. Do you have to learn Glue script to run Spark code in Glue? Or do you have to use Glue APIs? Or you can use PySpark? Obviously, the answer is that you can use PySpark in Glue also, as it is with a very small change that you have to do. First of all, let me reiterate that Glue essentially runs Spark only. You have seen that. In the Spark UI, I had shown you that the dynamic frame which is created by Glue is implemented using Spark RDD. So Spark is the base language of running Glue API also. So Glue is a wrapper on top of Spark. So that's why you can run the native Spark code either in PySpark or Scala in Glue, but with a very small change. I'm showing you only PySpark code. The only change that you have to make is this one. You do not have to remember all these. The code from here till here is something that you can copy and paste, and you see what this code is doing. The first is getting some Glue transformation API, then some Glue utilities, then it is importing the Spark context from PySpark.context. And after that, it is importing something called Glue context from AWS Glue.context. In the code, if you have to create a data frame or if you have to create a Spark session, the code is a little different. First, you'll have to create the Spark context using SC, and then you can create the Spark session and keep it in any variable. Here it is named as Spark. And to do that, you'll have to use Glue context and then the method Spark underscore session. This is the only change that you have to do in your PySpark code. And after that, the moment you create a Spark session, the remaining PySpark code would be exactly same. You do not have to change anything at all in your PySpark code. So let me show you how you can write a PySpark code in the Glue console itself. And you can write it in PyCharm and upload it in S3 also. But you have to remember to write or copy this portion of the code. Now let's go to the Glue console. Now here, I have already shown you Visual ETL. Now I'll use script editor to write a code from scratch. You can use notebook also, or we can upload the code in S3 and you can execute the code from there also. But of course, I'll use the script editor and the engine would be Spark. So this is the option where you can upload the script from your local machine also. So let's start it from fresh and then click on create script. Before looking into this portion, let us change or configure the job details. This is the name of the job. Let's mention the IAM role. Let's optimize AWS Glue. This is the maximum number of workers. I'll enable job bookmark as of now. Number of retries would be 0. And in the advanced properties, nothing is needed to be changed except for the concurrency. Maybe I'll increase the concurrency to 5. And that's it. I do not need any connections because I'll be reading from S3 and writing to S3. Right now, I'll not show you additional Python modules here. And that's it. So let's save it first. Now let's go to the script. And in this script, although it is blank, Glue has created a few things here. So it is importing the sys module because Glue expects some arguments which will not provide. Then all the things that I have mentioned. And it expects some job name, etc. I'll comment this also, because in PySpark we do not need this. Then it creates a Spark context, because it has imported Spark context from PySpark.context, and from Spark context it is creating a glue context. So glue context is a method, and here you have to send the Spark context, because glue is a wrapper on top of Spark. That's why it is needed. And this is the Spark session, which is glue context dot spark underscore session. In the slide, I have not shown you this particular step. I have missed this one, but this is the Spark session that has been created, and all these are not needed. I'll remove these two also. These are not needed at all. So till here, or from here to here, we have used Glue APIs to create a Spark session. I don't even need the import sys or the Glue transforms or the Glue utils or the Glue job. These are not needed. We only need the Spark context and the Glue context. So again, let me repeat. Spark context is getting imported from PySpark.context, which is similar to PySpark RDD coding, which I have shown you in the RDD section of the course. Then it is importing glue context from AWS glue.context. And then it is creating a Spark context. We have seen this earlier. Then from the Spark context, it is creating a glue context. And then using glue context, it is creating a Spark session. And after this, everything remains the same. So what will I do? I'll read from the account file and the customer file, do some joining and write it to a new file, maybe in S3. Everything that I have done using the visual ETL, I'll be doing the same here. So let me create the first data frame. Of course, I'll not explain it because you have already seen this earlier. So this is something that you have already used, and in load, I will mention the S3 URI of account folder. As you know, we'll have to mention the folder. So I have created the first data frame. Let me create the second data frame from customer, which will also be an S3 folder. So let us go ahead and join these two. Okay, the join is done, and now I'll have to create the final data frame because I'll have to drop multiple fields. So in the DF final, I'm dropping 3 fields. Currency code is from the first data frame, phone number and national ID are from the second data frame. And now you know what to do. You'll have to write this using data frame writer, and I'll write it in the S3 folder. So this is the name of the folder, PySpark Glue account customer detail. That's it. So this is the code without the visual ETL that I have done in the last video. So I'm using this Spark session as usual. The only difference is creating the Spark session, which is different in Glue. So let me save it, and then let us go ahead and run it, and I'll see the run details here. I'll run it using this. It has started execution. Let's wait for some time for the execution to complete. Okay, it failed. It says that unclassified error, failed line number is 8, type error, data frame option missing, required one positional parameter, which is value. Let's look at it. I think it should be pretty easy to solve. Okay, so in infer schema, I did not mention the value. Let's run it again. Finally, the job got completed and it failed multiple times. I'll show you why it failed. It was syntactical error, nothing else. Let's look at the run details. So this is what it is, and then Spark UI. And here we do not have dynamic frame for RDD anymore. So now the Spark UI would show you the exact same things which are available in, or which you can get in a Spark UI if you run PySpark code. So we have these load jobs, and then we have save jobs. These are the ones. Obviously there would be stages, there would be shuffling, etc. So you can see the stages here, starting from load this to load this. So these load are for infer schema, and then you see we have shuffling write or shuffle write, and then shuffle read. Similarly, we can look at storage, whether any memory was used or not. So let's look at the SQL data frame finally, and it should show you the entire execution plan here also with a lot more details, right? It can show the number of shuffle records written, the shuffle write total, etc., various whole stage code gen, sort, merge, join project, etc. So it's the entire Spark environment and output that you can expect. So this is how you can run PySpark, but let me show you why it failed the second and third time. First time, it failed because of infer schema true, and the same thing happened for the second one also. Now, if you look at the script, I have infer schema two times. So I forgot to mention true here. So that's why it failed the second time. And in the third time, it failed because it says the column already exists, which is the customer ID. The reason is because in the script, I did not drop one of the customer IDs because there are two customer IDs. That's why these jobs failed, but eventually it succeeded, and the output should be in the location, which is 3am glue output, and this is the folder, which is PySpark glue account customer detail, inside of which we can find multiple Parquet files. Now there is one downside to running the PySpark script here, and the problem is that this table cannot be added in the glue data catalog automatically. So you'll have to run a glue crawler again if you want the table to be available in the glue data catalog. But you can use the glue APIs to write this table in the glue data catalog also. There are glue APIs available which can be used to write the records or write the table name in the glue data catalog. Now this is how we can run PySpark code using glue. It is plain and simple PySpark. Everything is same except for the creation of Spark session. These are the lines that I have highlighted that you have to copy and paste in your code, and everything else can remain the same because eventually you are getting the Spark session using glue context. So that's how you can execute PySpark code in AWS Glue.